What's going on, everybody? It's Brian Trippe. Welcome to another episode of the Real Estate Investing Live podcast. We interview the very best real estate investors, entrepreneurs, and business leaders all throughout the country. And today, I am so excited to be joined by a legend in the industry, Mr. Joe McCall. How's it going today, Joe?
Good. Brian, you sound so professional and dare I say sexy with that microphone that you've got. You sound so good, but I'm not gay or anything. I'm just saying, like, the way you, like, the radio voice and the microphone, just like sounds so like groovy.
You just totally threw me off my professionalism and my groove. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. That's awesome.
Just from an audio technical standpoint, like I got this little mic here, and you sound really good with that high all mic. So
I appreciate that. Thank you. You know, and those are simple things that the average person would not appreciate, but you would, because and this is one of the things I wrote down is actually on the top of the list. And let's just jump right in. There's a lot of things I want to talk about. Obviously, we're going to talk about wholesaling lease options, virtual wholesaling, a lot of things that you've been doing for a very long time. By the way, we're going to plug it at the end too, but go get the book. Joe wrote a book on wholesaling lease options. Go to WLObook.com. I want to get that out of the way right off the bat, WLObook.com. But before we start digging into that stuff, I really want to talk about that tech side. You brought it up, and I think you're kind of known in, especially, you know, amongst the real estate guru, if you will, community as the tech guy. You know all the latest websites, all the latest apps, all the latest gadgets to use to, and I see you doing a lot of the great podcasting, video-wise, broadcasting, and doing different things. Joe, give us some tips right off the bat, right out of the gate. What are some websites, some apps, what's some tech that you're really high on right now?
Let me preface all of this by this. Having the latest fancy technology and gadgets and being up to date and up to speed with all that will not make you any more money in this business. Okay. It's more like a hobby. And our mutual friend, Tom Kroll, often says, you show me somebody who's good at technology and Podio specifically, and I'll show you a broke wholesaler. And he's absolutely right. Like, so it's just a hobby of mine. I like studying marketing. I love studying, like, what are the cool tools and software and websites that I can use to run my business, and on the deal side and on the teaching education side. Right. But, I'm loving Zoom right now. We're on Zoom, and I spent maybe $300 on this mic. It's not as good as your mic, which you probably spent $600 on, but I love podcasting and teaching live on YouTube and Facebook. So one of my favorite tools right now is something called StreamYard, and another website called Restream. So when I'm teaching or doing a podcast, I can broadcast it live to Facebook and YouTube at the same time. And when people comment, I can show and display their comments on the lower section of the screen. And so it allows me to, like, have more interaction with people and get their questions and answer their questions, and, have people tell me, like, where are they from and what are some of their challenges and stuff like that. So that's a lot of fun. I love the interacting with people. I'm not an introvert, but I like staying at home. Right. And I don't like going out and traveling that much. So I love doing the interactive stuff on Facebook and YouTube, and even Periscope. I got a lot of people from Periscope that are coming in, and, like, just talking to them. And one of the coolest things we're doing lately, Brian, is evaluating deals live on Facebook and YouTube. Like, just saying, hey, all right, who's working a lead right now? Who's working a certain deal? And who wants some help maybe coming up with a cash offer or a lease option offer? And, sometimes we'll actually even role play, pretending that you're the seller and I'm the buyer, and we'll just practice talking and making offers and stuff like that. And so that's a lot of fun. I love digging into, like, actual deals that students are working on, because a lot of them are stuck. Like, what do I offer? They say they want this, but it's worth this, and I can only offer this. Like, what should I offer? And I love diving in, like opening up, like with Zoom right now, where we can share the screen. I can pull up the property on Zillow and Redfin, and we can look at sold comps and active comps, and, just quick estimate for repairs. So that's something I'm geeking out. I'm also geeking out on Zillow and Redfin right now. They're incredibly websites. because there's so much more information. It just seems like every day new cities are coming on Redfin and Zillow, and they're showing more and more data. It's like the data that's been publicly available. This has been happening for years, but I see it more and more happening now. The data that was only available to realtors is now being more and more made available to the public. For example, sold property data. Like it used to be a year or 2 years ago, you'd go to Zillow and you couldn't get sold data because the MLS had a tight death grip on that stuff, or previous listing data. But Redfin kind of spearheaded that, and now Zillow's is there. Every city now you can go in and see sold data and listing data on their platforms like Zillow and Redfin. So I think the MLS is becoming more and more irrelevant, and tools like Zillow and Redfin are becoming more prominent and useful and helpful to the everyday average consumer, which is awesome for us investors, right?
I think it's interesting you bring that up, Joe, because even still today, I get people, you say the word Zillow, and 9 out of 10 people are going to cringe. But you're using it, you're saying the word authoritatively, happily, like excitedly.
I love Zillow. It's the biggest marketplace on the internet right now, right? And it's the biggest source for rentals and for sale by owners, which are my two favorite sources of leads. Right. Facebook Marketplace is also getting really big now. So like Facebook Marketplace has replaced Craigslist. I mean, Craigslist is almost irrelevant and obnoxious. But with Zillow looking up for rent ads, I mean, here's the best list you can market to are vacant properties, right? Well, there's hundreds of thousands of them right under our nose on Zillow as rentals. And I'm going to give you a little tip. We're seeing 5 to 10, sometimes 20% response rates. And I'm not trying to exaggerate. I'm not overpromising, but like I've gotten 20% response. I've had students get 20% response rates on sending handwritten yellow letters to the owners of the rentals on Zillow. You think about it. Why? Well, a lot of these rentals, if they've owned it for over a year or 2 years and it's now listed for rent again, it's usually because the tenant that they had in there, trashed the property, wasn't paying rent. It took them 2-3 months to kick them out and evict them. It took them another 1 or 2 months to rehab the house and get it ready to rent again. And they're paying the property manager another 1 full month's a fee or commission for finding a new tenant. They've just put 5 to 10 grand into fixing it up. They just went through an expensive litigation and eviction, and they've lost 3-4 months of rent. And they get a letter from you saying, hey, you want to sell this house? You want to get rid of the problem that you have? And when you know how to do lease options, you can offer them more than all of the hundreds of other cash buyers that are offering them ridiculous low. You can now give them other options, and you can say, maybe I can pay you more if you can lease option it. So when you can send letters to rentals, the landlords, I'm not talking about just texting or calling the property managers that are listing those rentals. I'm talking about going directly to the homeowner, sending them a handwritten yellow letter or a letter with a picture of the house on it or something like that. We're seeing on the low end 5% response rates on those letters. And that's like, I had a chucklehead the other day. I want to stay cool, but like this guy really ticked me off. He's like, this doesn't work. I only sent 445 letters and I got 23 calls and I didn't get any deals. Over 3 months, okay, this guy sent 445 letters. And he was complaining about getting 23 leads. Let me open up my calculator here. 23
That's 5%.
That's 5.2% response rate. Like number one, you need to be sending that like every week, sending those letters, that number every week. And you need to be talking to a lot more sellers before you quit and give up. But anyway, I know investors that would die to get 5% response rate. And he's complaining about it. But anyway, and he's complaining about not doing any deals, only sending 440 letters. I mean, that probably cost him $300. Like, come on. Do you want to play big? You gotta go big or go home. So anyway, that's why I love. And the other cool thing about Zillow is for sale by owners, you can actually contact the owners directly. So you can, like, if it's a for sale by owner and if it's a lower end house, I typically will send them a text. My VA will send them a text saying, hey, saw your property on Zillow. I'm an investor. Is your price negotiable? A simple question like that
Yep.
sent to the owner, and that can open up more doors. Number one, if they respond, number one, they know that you're an investor, and number two, they're negotiable on their price. So there's a little bit of room there. You can talk to them. The other thing we like to do is if it's listed as a rental, we send them a text. Hey, we like the property at 123 Main Street. Is it still available? If they respond back, great. Are you the owner? It looks like a nice house. Are you the owner? If they respond back, yes, then we can talk to them and maybe offer them, see if they're interested in selling it, maybe make a lease option offer. And if you don't think you've got enough leads in your little area that you're looking at on Zillow, there's a little plus button and a minus button, right? You click that minus button a few times, you keep on zooming out. I'm telling you, you've got more leads than you can handle right in your backyard. Just make your backyard a little bigger. And I tell students all the time, I see this over and over again. If you just pick 3 cities or 3 markets in Zillow and you just rotate through them, you will have more leads than you can handle just on Zillow.
It's incredible stuff, Joe. You're already dropping knowledge bombs, and appreciate that. I want to ask you specifically about what you are actually doing today. There's so many coaches, teachers, gurus, whatever you want to call it, that are out there teaching real estate, but they're not actually doing it. You are partnering, I know, with you're partnering with people I know right here in Birmingham, Alabama, first of all. So I know you're doing it. But you're actually doing these deals and you're in it. You're in it every single day. Tell everybody what you're actually doing today.
Well, we're doing several things. We're doing wholesaling, and things ebb and flow. Like we were doing an average of 4 or 5 deals a week 4 or 5 months ago, but it's slowed down to maybe a couple deals a month. I'll just be honest, in Alabama right now. And we're doing that with one of our coaching students, former coaching students. She's now a partner. You know her, Melissa and Carrie, they're awesome. And then Gavin is really helping me with that. And then we just kind of ramped up recently lease option marketing in St. Louis again. And we just got a property under contract the other day. And we're doing land flips, vacant land flips as well. I have 2 boys, 14 and 15 years old. In a week, we're actually flying down. Me and my 2 boys are flying down to Phoenix to be in a small little workshop with Jack Bosch, kind of not just teaching, but actually doing some land marketing, like sending blind offers, doing some research, sending blind offers. And he's got a software called Investment Dominator, which is amazing. So my boys are going to go down there and learn it. And I want my boys to start doing it. I want my boys, I've been kind of debating whether they should be doing, wholesaling or lease options or land deals. And I kind of like the land deals because there's not as much negotiating going on with the sellers. I don't think they're mature enough to understand like how to build rapport and how to make a cash offer or make lease option offers. I may be wrong. I may be underestimating them, but with vacant land, they can actually, you just make blind offers and it's a numbers game. You make 300, 400, 500 blind offers, you're going to get a couple accepted. So there's not much negotiating involved at all. And then I have some students that are friends of mine that also partner with us on those deals and help us sell them. So does that answer the question?
Yeah, I just want to know what you were up to today, because you're doing real estate and people see you. You've got the podcast, you got the book, you teach, you have workshops, you go and speak. You've got all these things going on, and you have a family. You have a beautiful large family, and you're trying to live your life on purpose. You're trying to live your life like deliberately and do things and travel. And so where do you have time to do all this real estate? You're doing lots of stuff. You're doing land, wholesaling, lease options.
I know this is something that you wrestle with too, Brian, because you guys do a lot of deals, but you also are a great teacher and a great coach. So how do you balance those two things? Yeah. There is no easy answer. I'll just be honest. So when I do deals, I partner with people, right? So I'm partnering with Gavin and Melissa in Alabama. I partner with, we hired an acquisitions manager in St. Louis. And then with my land deals, it's my boys and some other students that I'm partnering with to do land deals. So I'm not on the phone talking to sellers or making offers anymore. I kind of delegate that out as best I can. There was a period of time when we were traveling a lot around Europe and in our RV where we were doing about 3-4 deals a week. And I was partnering with local wholesalers. And I had one dedicated assistant that was managing that for me, managing the marketing, the inbound leads, and managing the leads that we were sending to local wholesalers. But when she left, I just kind of stopped doing that. So my passion right now is teaching and coaching, doing the podcast, doing videos on YouTube and stuff. And so that's where I spend the majority of my time. I spend at least 85-90% of my time teaching and coaching. I'm coming out with a new book real soon called REI Secrets. And I have I'm doing a really cool promotion in a couple of weeks where I have an old course called Automated Wholesaling. It's not old. It's like I created it 2 years ago, but I've taken it off the market. Well, I'm going to be releasing it for free for everybody. So I'm taking the whole course and I'm dividing it up into 10 modules, 10 chunks. And every day I'm going to be releasing one of those modules for free, like absolutely free, no strings attached. You can watch all the videos, download all of the stuff. Over 10 days, I'm releasing one module each day. So I geek out over that stuff. Like I really, really love doing that. And I'm looking. Oh yeah, let me show you something. I love books, and I was actually quite honored to write a chapter of this book for Russell Brunson called You Suddenly Lose Everything, 30days.com. And it's like, if you're a teacher or a coach and you sell information, if you were to lose everything, how would you start over again if all you had was a ClickFunnels account? And so I'm in Brunson's mastermind. We're good friends. And so I was privileged to write a chapter for this book. And I love that kind of marketing stuff. I geek out with that. And this is a great book, by the way. Anybody's interested should go to 30days.com to check this out.
That's awesome. That's awesome stuff. So I want to go back to something you said earlier, though. You said that, things are ebbing and flowing and you're doing, so many wholesale deals and maybe you're not doing quite as many. So you've had to maybe not pivot, but maybe put emphasis on other areas that maybe you were already doing. I want you to talk about that for a second, because you're obviously, I think most people know you as the Wholesaling Lease Options guy. I think you used to be Podio Joe. Now you're kind of Wholesaling Lease Options guy. I think. Do you believe that, the lease option stuff is more prevalent today? You think wholesaling is more, the market's flooded with wholesalers. Do you think wholesaling is more important today? Do you think land, you mentioned, do you think where should we kind of be directing our attention?
That's a great question. There's a lot of power in focus, right? Like I believe that you'll make more money when you're focused on just one thing. One of my favorite books is called The Pumpkin Plan by a guy named Mike Michalowicz. Great book, right?
That you mailed to me, by the way.
Yes, that's right.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Hope you read it.
I did not.
You should.
Yes, anyway, I will.
Okay, good. Really good book because it talks about the power of focus. So, there's a lot of power in focusing on one strategy, one business, right? But like when you're talking to a seller and the house is worth 150 and they owe 140, if you're just doing wholesaling, you'll throw that lead away. And that's maybe fine. But also, what if you could say to that seller, well, listen, what if I could get you 140? And they're motivated, right? Like they got to sell this thing or they can't make next month's mortgage payment. And you say, listen, I can't get you 140 if I pay cash, but what if I could get you 140? Would you be willing to lease it for a couple of years and then sell it? That wouldn't work for you, would it? Just like asking that question to that seller, now you can take that deal and maybe do a lease option on it. So I think it's important to be a transaction engineer. So in other words, like your job, sometimes I tell people, listen, you shouldn't be focusing on just wholesaling or just lease options or just land. You should be focusing on finding motivated sellers. You should be focused on marketing. Like that's your one thing. That's your giant pumpkin, is that one thing. It's marketing. So I often say we're not in the real estate business. We're not in the wholesaling or lease options business. We are in the marketing business. We're marketers first who do real estate investing. Marketing is the most important element of this entire business because like it all starts from the top, goes backwards, it comes back to marketing. Like if you want to make 10 grand a month, you got to do 2 deals a month. If you got to make 40 offers, you've got to talk to 80 sellers, you got to send whatever type of marketing out. So if you work from the top backwards, it all comes back to marketing. So I think, if it's the better question might be, should you do lease options or wholesaling? It should be, you should be a student of marketing, and you should be really good at understanding how to get leads, because cycles change, markets change, you know? So like direct mail may not be working because so many people are doing it, but there's other things that are working. Like I'm hearing a lot more now of short sales coming back, and pre-foreclosures are rising. And direct mail response rates are climbing back up again because there's less people doing it. So I think everybody needs to be a student of marketing, and then also learn how to, when you're talking to a seller, not just come at it from a cash offer perspective, but like find out what's their situation. Why do they need to sell the house, or just want to sell the house? What's their situation? What would they like to see happen? Why can't they sell it? Why are they renting it out? Like, why don't you just list it with a realtor? Find out their pain, their problem, and then craft an offer that fixes their problem.
So I struggle with this. This is a huge point of contention right here. You're talking about focus. I struggle with this, and I listen to a lot of people. You do too. You probably listen to podcasts. I know you read a lot of books as well. And you mentioned Tom Kroll's name earlier, where he's like, super focused. Stay focused on wholesale. If you're a wholesaler, stay focused on wholesale. And I get it, and I agree with that premise. I totally agree with it. But here's the problem. I'm an entrepreneur in my heart, deep in my heart, and I know you are too. Tom is too. Like, entrepreneurs, like we're visionaries, we're creators. Like we see, like, oh, I can definitely see how that can connect to that and connect to that and that and that. So there is a way, like you said, the pumpkin needs to be marketing, but you also need to know the strategy of wholesaling. You need to know how to do the lease option. You need to know how to execute these things. And those are things that take a lot of time, especially like a lease option, take a lot of time to put that piece together, put it together right. So I guess the question I'm asking you is, how do you balance that? It's such a tough balance between you're an entrepreneur and that there's all these great things out there, all these great ideas, but in order to make the most amount of money, you got to stay focused.
Man, that's a tough question. I don't know if I could answer it, because I'm
not. How do you do it?
Well, it comes down to, this is one of the best questions I've gotten in a long time. And I've been on a lot of podcasts. It comes down to like, we've talked about this a lot before, the vision for your life, right? Like, what do you want your life to do? I don't want to be, I know for me, I want to work from home. I don't like leaving my house. I like to travel a lot. I don't want to be on the phone with sellers. So I decided what I wanted my life to look like. And then I designed a business to support that, right? I still work 40 hours a week. I love what I do, but I also take, Fridays off sometimes, or sometimes we just took 4 days off to go to Wisconsin. But, so how do I do it? Like, let me go back to the info side of things. Okay. In the education business, right? I love teaching and I love coaching, because I would much rather see a student do 5-10 grand on a deal than me do 5 or 10 grand on the deal. Like, that gets me so much more excited. Yeah. I feel like I'm contributing. I'm leaving my mark. I'm leaving a legacy. I'm making an impact and a difference in the world. Right. If I can teach somebody how to do deals, I'm getting much more satisfaction out of that. Okay. So here's an example of focus there. Like, as entrepreneurs, we're visionary. We're like seeing all of these different things. Well, this going back to Brunson, who created ClickFunnels. He talked about having just one core product. And I really grabbed onto this a couple of years ago when I heard him talking about it. You should have one core product and maybe one place that they can go if they want more help. Like, I have a core product on lease options, right? I used to have 4 or 5 different products. I just simplified it all. I brought it all under one roof, calling it Simple Lease Options. And then I have a coaching program if somebody wants some help, more one-on-one access, if they want us to do some of the stuff for them. And that's it. Now, but I can still use my creative energies to design a bunch of different front-end offers, right? So like, I can write a book, because I was worried about having just one product. Like, I was going to be bored with that or something. So, but what I did then instead is I channeled my creative energies to writing books, to creating webinars, to creating podcasts, to doing YouTube videos and Facebook Lives. And so I can create different front end funnels, and I've got 4 or 5 of them where I'm delivering a lot of value. I'm helping people. My products aren't very expensive, but like I just got ever since I've done that, I've made much more money and I've had much more impact and effect on people. Like I got my main product and I have coaching and that's it. But then I've got like 5 or 6 other things down below that send people there. And when it comes to real estate, I think there could be like, I don't know. I don't know if I figured that out yet, but does that make sense? Maybe you can.
No, it makes complete sense. I feel like you're about to say something super profound right there. When it comes to real estate, like I think what you're trying to say is there's the pumpkin, going back to the pumpkin plan. There's this one thing, and let's try to center it. Like, don't deviate from this one thing, but there's a lot of different ways to go at that one thing and attack that one thing. Is that kind of what you're?
That's very good. So that one thing, I like the idea of making that one thing your marketing, right? That's when marketing for motivated sellers is your giant pumpkin. If you're good with that, you will never have a problem with money. Never. If you know how to do marketing and you can bring in motivated seller leads, you will never have to worry about money again, because then it becomes easy. Now you're shopping for deals instead of like chasing deals. There's a big difference, right? Yeah. So when you've got a lot of leads coming in, you can cherry pick the best ones. You can say, you can make a lease option offer, cash offer. And if they say no big deal, you got so many other leads coming in. So, but then what you can do with those leads is you can do a lease option, or you can make a cash offer, or you can maybe take your marketing. So the one thing is marketing for motivated sellers, but like the different little things that you could create vision, like if you're visionary, the little things that you can do there is like marketing in different markets. Maybe you could say, all right, I'm going to do some deals in this market and this market and this market, or I'm going to do wholesaling. I'm going to do lease options. I'm going to do some vacant land flips. But like, don't try to move on to these other little things feeding this big pumpkin until it's like 100% automated and delegated. So you've got a system going to do this. When that system is going and it's like running, then create another system to feed that thing, right? So like sometimes I refer to it as silos. Like you should have a silo here. And I borrowed this from Rob Swanson. He calls it simple system scale. And so you create this little silo and you break it down into a simple component. Then you build a system around that, and then you scale it. And it has to be in that order: simple, system, scale. And then once that's going, then you move to the next silo: simple, system, scale. And if you've got a good team around you and you got good systems in place, you can eventually get to 3 or 4 of those things going without much of your involvement at all. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, and that's great. And I feel like that's a lot of what I've tried to do here. When you start talking about the RIA, Roland Frazier, who I know calls them bolt-on businesses. Like if I've got my main core business, what is just a natural fit? So I started a brokerage, and that sounds like super like involved, and it sounds like there's a lot to that, but there's really not. I hired a broker and kind of let them run the show.
You don't have to be licensed to own a brokerage, do you?
True.
Yeah.
But you do have to be an attorney to own a law practice. I did learn that.
Did you try to start a law practice?
Well, it was on my mind.
Not a bad idea.
So I want to kind of get back to, so all that is great. The marketing piece that you're talking about is great, but we need to understand the tactics. We still have to know how to do and execute a lease option. Without you like giving us a lease option course right now here on the podcast, talk about your book for a second. What is in it? Give us some teasers and just give us maybe some maybe a tip or two to look out for when we're doing and trying to execute a lease option.
Yes, cool. So I started doing lease options in 2008 because I was doing a lot of wholesaling. Even back then, I was throwing away a ton of leads. I was frustrated with all the competition. I was complaining about direct mail response rates, just like everybody is today. Like nothing's new. And but I was spending a lot of money, felt like I was spinning my wheels. And I started doing lease options because I liked the idea of I didn't have to go see the house. I could negotiate these deals over the phone a lot easier. And so I started just doing lease options, and then instead of like a wholesaling contract, you sell the contract to an investor, cash buyer. I would just sell these contracts to tenant buyers, and I'd make $3 to $10,000. I'd just sell my contracts away, right? And then I'd be done and out of the deal. So I just started doing that. And I was in 09, I quit my job. I was making about 75, 85 grand a year in my engineering job. And I was making more money doing these flipping lease options part-time than I was in my full-time job. So I quit my job. And then over time, people started asking me how to do this. So that's when I created my course back in 2010, 2011, a couple of years later. And one time about 5-6 years ago, I was invited to go speak, and I was going to talk about my wholesaling lease option stuff. And this guy was up there talking about how to make money rehabbing and flipping properties. And he had like this huge stack of courses, right? And like everything under the sun, if you wanted to learn how to rehab, like how to raise private money, how to set up your entities and structure your business, and how to do your marketing, and how to manage contractors, and how to sell the deals, and how to stage them. And like this must have been 100 DVDs, manuals that were at least a foot thick. And I was just completely overwhelmed. I thought, this is amazing material. I'm sure it's awesome. But I looked at that and I felt completely overwhelmed. And I'm speaking next. And I thought, I wonder if I could teach somebody how to do a lease option deal on one piece of paper. So I took a yellow pad of paper like this, and I might even have it somewhere around here. I don't know. But I wrote down how to do a lease option deal on one piece of paper. Now that was pretty cool. So when it was my turn to come up and talk, I stood up in front of the room and I said, how many of you guys maybe just are a little overwhelmed by all of this stuff that you're saying? I mean, it's good stuff, but how many of you maybe are like, that was completely overwhelming to me? And everybody raised their hand. And I said, would you like me to teach you how to do a lease option deal, maybe just one piece of paper? And I got almost a standing ovation from everybody in that room. I thought, I might be onto something here. So I really have tried to focus when I'm teaching lease options to keep it really, really simple. And even my book here, I spent 6 months writing this little book here. And I was so disappointed after I got it back from the printer, it was only this thick. I'm like, what? But it's like 97 pages. And that includes an about the author thing. And I was so frustrated. Like there was even one of my chapters that said, work harder, not smarter. That was one of the chapters. It should have been work smarter, not harder, but it was called work harder, not smarter. But anyway, I worked so hard to do this book, and it's only like 1/4 of an inch thick, but I'm getting such great feedback from it. And it's not a bunch of white space. It's like good stuff. But I get a lot of great feedback from it because it's like, there's no fluff. You're just straight to the point, and you keep it super simple. So I'm actually kind of proud of the book that it's so thin, and it's thinner than Brian's book. And you could read it faster than his. That's all that matters to me. And the fancy cover here, my assistant, who has zero graphic expertise, whatever, designed the cover for me. Pretty good. So, but anyway, here's my point. Lease options are simple. Like, and if they're complicated, then you're doing it wrong. So you find a seller that wants to sell but can't because they don't have enough equity. And they're worried about making next month's mortgage payment, or they can't pay a real estate commission, or they don't want to clean it up to get it ready to sell on the MLS. And so I just ask them a question. I'm looking for an investment property that I can lease for a year or two and then buy. Would that work for you? And if they say, yeah, I send them an offer. And my offer, I usually give them options. And if they say yes, then what I do is I give them a lease option contract. And if there's a little bit of equity and some cash flow, then I'll stay in the middle of the deal. If there's not, I'll just sell my contract to a tenant buyer. So there are more steps in a lease option deal than a wholesaling deal, but it actually is pretty simple. And if people want this book, I teach you how to do everything A to Z in it. Go to WLObook.com. But yeah,
it's awesome. And I read through the book, and you were one of my very first coaches I ever hired back in 2014. I've been through Joe's stuff. He is like, there are a lot of people out there screaming guru and screaming teacher and coach. And Joe is one of the single most genuine and sincere people in this entire business. And I can say that with absolute confidence because I went through it. I went through your stuff, and I just appreciate you so much. And I appreciate how thin and how simple it is, because that's important. What you just said up there, I'm sure that the guy that was speaking didn't really like you after you you kind of lambasted his stuff, but it's so true. Nobody wants a bunch of DVDs. Sean McCloskey, who we were talking about off air a minute ago, he was the worst. You said you were going to give away, some course that you had a couple of years ago. Well, Sean had like a bunch of leftover, short sale courses. He's like, hey, I'm just giving these away for free. And I'm like, I'll take one. And he sends it to me in this UPS box. And I'm looking through it. I'm like, there's no way I can go through all this stuff. Not that I'm talking bad about Sean. Sean's awesome, but that's a lot of stuff. And I think it goes back. It just proves that people just want simple. Just give me some simple instructions so I can go out and execute.
Yeah, and that's why I like Tom Kroll so much. We talked about him earlier too. Like, what he teaches is super simple, so it shouldn't be complicated. And if it is, then maybe you're doing the wrong things. So keep it simple, stupid, I think, is a really good philosophy. My philosophy with my courses and stuff that I sell is like, if I can't make you money, then I don't deserve yours. So I'm very liberal with my refund policy. If anybody doesn't like what I sell, or keep the course, I'll refund your money. I don't care. But I also give so much incredible free value, which is one of the things I like about you so much, Brian, is like, people are shocked all the time. I get this a lot. Like, I can't believe you give as much information away as you do for free on your videos and on your podcast. And I like helping people by actually helping them. It's whether I make any money or not, it's fun. It always comes back, Brian.
It always comes back.
Always comes back.
So let's end on this note, because I know we both have to go. I want to end on this note. And I've told you this story probably too many times, but I want to reiterate it for my audience. In 2012, when I first got started in real estate, just to your point, what you were talking about, you give all of it away for free. I went to I'm like, I'm just getting into real estate. I want to learn. Is there anything for free that I can start listening to? And I went and I searched in podcasts, and I'd never listened to a podcast ever. I didn't even really know what podcasts were. And there it was. Your podcast was the very first one under the real estate heading. And I just clicked on it. And I'm telling you, for about 2 full years, I listened along. I never commented. I never sent you an email. I was just one of those silent listeners, just listened along. And I could not, and I went out and executed a lot of the stuff that you were talking about. You had incredible guests on. You were knowledgeable. And I'm going to tell you, and you know this, I hired you as a coach because of you built rapport with me for 2 years. And I trusted you. And I hired you as a coach, and you were the very first coach I actually spent money on. So it just goes to show you.
And look how successful you are. If I shave my hair, I might be as successful as you are.
Oh, come on. Joe, you're so modest. I just want to say thank you from Birmingham, Alabama, Real Estate Investing Live, that was formerly Alaria. You came here when you didn't even know what it was or who it was or what was going on. And we packed the house for you. You had like 175 people here when you came in November of 2017. You got coaching students from here. Like you've been so supportive of me and so supportive of now Real Estate Investing Live. Came to Atlanta to speak at our event there. And I just want to say thank you on our podcast publicly, because you've just been an invaluable resource for us here in Birmingham and REI Live. So thank you, Joe. Appreciate you.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. You could. That's a perfect ending. Joe, thank you so much, man. I appreciate you guys. Go to WLObook.com. We're going to link it up in the show notes. It's free book. You just got to pay like a little bit of shipping, and he'll send that out to you. And it gives it all away right there in the book. So make sure you take advantage of that. Joe, thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Brian. We'll see you soon, man.
All right, guys. We love you. Hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you next time.